2015. We're ready to go at the council meeting. We started off in camera at 6:20. We're now moving into the regular meeting. Any additional items? Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a brief item on the annual general meeting of the Community Waterfront Heritage Centre, which is later this week.
Good, thank you. Saw another hand, Deputy Mayor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to raise an issue with our official plan, but it may come up before that.
Going this way, Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two very brief items, one on the Owen Sound Community Fund and one on the Seniors Fair.
And I saw Councillor O'Leary's hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a comment on the torch relay.
Good. Anyone else down that way? Councillor Dodd, did I see your hand half up? No? Good. Oh, a bunch of things. Disclosure of pecuniary interest is next, number 4 on our agenda. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Anyone? Seeing none. Number 5 is confirmation of minutes.
Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Thomas, that the minutes of the joint special meeting held on May 19, 2015 between Owen Sound and Georgian Bluffs as printed be adopted.
And all in favor? Thank you. Microphone. That's carried. Oh.
Moved by myself, Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Thomas, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 25th, 2015 as printed be adopted.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 5C.
Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Thomas, that the minutes of the public meeting held on May 25th, 2015 respecting a proposed amendment to the development charges bylaw as printed be adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 5D.
Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Thomas, that the minutes of the emergency council meeting held on May 27th, 2015 as printed be adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. Good. Thank you. Number 6 is resolution moving council into committee of the whole.
Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Thomas, that City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
And all in favor? Good. That is carried. Thank you. We're now in committee of the whole, all the way up to number 7, which is public meetings. Yes, your motion to adjourn regular council meeting, which will
Motion. Oh, motion to adjourn the regular council meeting.
Good. And all in favor? It's carried. Good. Thank you. So I now declare the public meeting open. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound to the Ontario Municipal Board. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the board, there is reasonable grounds to do so.
Through you, Your Worship, notice for this public meeting was circulated to the prescribed bodies, posted on the city's website, and posted in the Sun-Times on May 8th, 2015. The comments that have been received were included in the agenda package. For those in attendance for this public meeting, please sign the sign-in sheet for communication purposes. The sign-in sheet is located just outside of council chambers. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to myself, the Deputy Clerk.
Okay. And comments from Ms. Coulter?
Thank you, Worship. This is a public meeting under the Planning Act with respect to 3225 East Bay Shore Road, so that's the former Goodyear plan. So Northridge Property Development has submitted an application to rezone these lands from the heavy industrial M2 zone to the general industrial M1 zone. The property owner is motivated to move the tenants from the former RCA plant, and one specific tenant is classified as a community lifestyle facility. That's a sports facility which is not permitted currently in the M2 zone. So in order to facilitate moving those tenants, a rezoning is proposed. In terms of the process we followed to date, we did a pre-circulation with this applicant back in January. On April 7th, we had a formal application. There was some supporting information submitted with the application, including a planning justification study as well as a scope servicing report. All of that information, as well as staff's technical report, is available on the city's website. On April 22nd, the application was deemed complete, and on May 8th, as the clerk has reported, there was a notice of complete application and public meeting. Council considered the technical report on May the 25th and resolved to move forward to the public meeting. So here we are on June 15th, the public meeting. The focus really tonight is to receive any input the public may have with respect to the proposed rezoning. There'll be a report back to council after tonight's public meeting. So the subject property is located on the East Bay Shore Road, 3225. It's at the northeast corner of 32nd Street and the East Bay Shore Road. It includes a 27-acre property, and it has about 100,000 square foot former Goodyear building. The entrances to the property are from 32nd. There aren't any entrances from East Bay Shore Road. Some of the lands owned by the applicant are on the water side of the East Bay Shore Road. However, they are not subject to this application. A variety of land uses surround the subject property, including the soccer complex to the southeast, tire retread facilities, some vacant industrial lands, residential lands along the East Bay Shore Road to the north, as well as the former RCA site to the south that has planning policies in place to facilitate a future residential development. So again, the proposed rezoning is from M2 to M1, which is just from our heavy industrial to a light industrial zone. So the PPS, in making a decision that affects a planning matter, council is required to ensure that the application is consistent with the PPS. And the proposed zoning amendment, staff find that it is consistent with the PPS. The lands are within a fully serviced urban settlement area, and the proposed rezoning will help optimize the use of these employment lands. So the lands are designated employment in the city's official plan. Oh. So the predominant use of land is to be for employment-related uses. So the list of permitted uses in the official plan specifically does include sports, health, and fitness type facilities. So there is a detailed review of the official plan policies in the technical report, but staff have concluded generally that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the city's official plan. In terms of zoning, the property where it's proposed for rezoning is zoned M2, and the proposal is to go to M1. You'll see a comparison chart here on the screen, and it's available on the website, that just compares the permitted uses in the M1 and M2 zones. You'll see that many of the uses are consistent between the two different zones, the M1 being light industrial, the M2 providing the more heavy industrial, heavy manufacturing type uses, which would no longer be permitted. So again, the focus tonight is to hear from the public meeting, and then after tonight, staff will be bringing back a report to council outlining the public information or thoughts that you've had tonight with a recommendation for council.
Thank you.
So
So we now wish to hear comments from the public. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to comment on this issue? If you want to come to the microphone, state your name and your address and give your opinion. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Julius Tikachek, 3495 East Bay Shore Road. I'm in one of the lots that you had next to the modifications. I was just concerned about the drainage. Right now there's a bit of swamp area in there, and if you start modifying the landscape, that you don't start flooding the homes in the area.
Great. That comment has been written down and recorded. Go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, if I could just provide to Mr. Tikachek tonight that there is no new building proposed as part of this development or an expansion of the parking lot. If that were proposed, and we can report back on this, that Council's normal site plan approval would be required, which would include stormwater management. So thank you for your comments.
Good, thank you. Someone else had their hand up, want to come forward? Against, state your name and address and tell us what you think.
Yeah, Steve Miller, 3521 East Bay Shore Road, neighbors of the Tikacheks. I have a similar concern, or just an issue to bring to attention. It's on the plan it indicates 9th Street might be carried on through, and same issues just around if it does go through. There's 40 acres that was just said in the newspaper, just basically uncertain what to do with it. I'm just wondering if there's any inquiry about what's going on with that.
Again, Ms. Coulter, you want to answer that?
It shows it on the plans on the website that it might go through up to that little cul-de-sac.
Okay.
And if it does, then of course it's going to adjust a whole bunch of stuff back there.
Right. 9th Avenue, maybe?
9th Avenue East.
Right, and
Yeah.
not 9th Street. Okay.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah, I can certainly follow up with a phone call and maybe clarify some of that, but we can include that in the comments back through council.
Yeah, it just indicates some future use, but doesn't go on to say what maybe it might be. And the plans do indicate 9th Street could go right through, 9th Ave could go straight through. And I don't know what the allowances are for roads and that kind of thing. And it is quite swampy back there.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the public? I don't see anyone moving. I'll ask one more time, any other comments from the public? Seeing no one moving, now declare the public meeting closed. Back to Councillor Gregg for a motion.
That the regular council meeting of June 15th, 2015 be reconvened.
Good, thank you. So that concludes number 7 being the public meeting on our agenda. Number 8 is a fun one. Deputations I get to present. Senior of the Year Award. Councillor McManaman, you going to join me? This is your committee, I believe. Good evening from down here. City of Owen Sound takes great pride in presenting the Senior of the Year Award for 2015 to Barbara Olmsted. Want to come up? Sure. Senior of the Year Award was established in 1994 to provide municipalities an annual opportunity to honor one of their outstanding local seniors. Recipients are individuals who, after age 65, have enriched the social, cultural, or civic life of the community without thought of personal or financial gain. The certificate is provided by the Ontario government and is signed by the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdensdale, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, the Honourable Mario Sergio, the Minister responsible for seniors, and by me, Mayor. Mrs. Olmsted has been a volunteer for Greybur's Health Services for over 46 years. She is actively involved with the Greybur's Health Services Auxiliary, where she has held a number of leadership positions, including Vice President and President in the 1980s. As a convener of the gift shop, Mrs. Olmsted has been involved in raising of $420,000 over the last 5 years, which has been donated to the hospital for capital equipment. Her commitment to the hospital is truly amazing. She averages between 1,000 and 1,500 hours of service per year, while most other volunteers average 150 hours per year. She's been recognized for her volunteer services, receiving the following awards: Provincial Volunteer Services Award, Grey Bruce Health Services Volunteer Service Award in 2014, Hospital Auxiliary Association Lifetime Award of Ontario. She's also a Grey Bruce Health Services Auxiliary Life member. She recently recognized for her volunteering, receiving the City's Volunteer of the Year Award. Mrs. Olmsted is an exceptional example of a person who has enriched the social, cultural, and civic life of Owen Sound without thought of personal or financial gain. Her remarkable energy and commitment are an inspiration to all of us that are touched by her. Congratulations to Mrs. Olmsted, our 2015 Senior of the Year Award winner.
Senior of the Year. This is a wonderful award I have been given. Senior of the Year. When I hear those 4 words, a big smile comes on my face. I certainly thank Carol Smith, Corporate Manager of the Volunteers Association of Grey Bruce Health Services. But I also thank the Province of Ontario government for providing this lovely certificate for me so that the council and Ian Body, the mayor, could give it to me. I will have many lifelong memories of this very special evening. Seniors are very special. I wish and hope that all our seniors can enjoy, in their own way, their senior years. I'm very fortunate. I'm well, I'm active, and I love every minute of my senior years. Thank you to everyone here for everything. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
You don't have to have your purse.
No.
The road between two words.
Help me to move.
Congratulations. Different when we're taking pictures for the radio station. That was great. Next deputation, there was Mareg Budgeon, Billy Goodcat, and Jen Clem. I don't see Jen here, with regard to the public art project in Private Lane. Welcome.
Yes, sadly, Jen, it's ball season. Not that you're not all important, and this whole project is important, but it is ball season. So Jen couldn't make it this evening. But good evening, Your Worship, members of council, city staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Morag Budgeon, and I am here as an advocate for the Owen Sound Artists Co-op. I was here recently wearing my hat for Boost and Fresh Fridays, and since then, I've learned PowerPoint, so I've really upped my game. So I'm thinking if you have me back for anything else, I may have a full video package for you. But today it's just this.
You'd need to hire somebody to do that, though, wouldn't you?
I don't know anybody who could do it or would.
The price is high, yeah.
Anyway, so let's see. Bear with me while I deal this. Like I said, it's new technology for me. The Artist Co-op is a shop and gallery downtown run by 40 local artists and craftspeople. Last year, we celebrated our 20th year in business, a great feat for any business, let alone one with 40 highly original, independent thinkers who are used to working on their own. We have met many challenges that have come our way and created a supportive community of artists and a showplace full of beautiful objects that enrich the lives of many of our customers, which I see many here, which is great. Okay, I think I need to go to the next one, and it's going to be really easy. Yeah, awesome. In the past 4 years, we have broadened our thinking beyond a gift shop and gallery, and with the help of an Ontario Trillium grant, have offered several worthy programs to encourage young artists in the Grey Bruce area. These collaborative projects have proven very satisfying, so we are planning on continuing this trend and working on community projects involving youth. Our main objective is to ensure that we are fostering arts in the younger generation by exposing them to arts and crafts often not offered in the school systems, and creating opportunities for professional artists to mentor, educate, and encourage fledgling talent. Next. Okay, this brings me to our current project, the Legacy Mural Project. Please accept my apologies at first that I'm coming to you slightly after the project has started. It's a bit of letting the horse out and closing the barn door after. But in order to engage our intended audience, we had to act quickly before the school year was finished. The Artist Co-op has recently received partial funding from Community Foundation Grey Bruce to create a graffiti mural for students in the alternative education system. As well as Community Foundation's generosity, the local business community, including John Tamming Law, Heartwood Home, the Retired Women Teachers Organization, and private donors, have thoughtfully donated back to their community by financially supporting this great project. As I mentioned, the Artist Co-op has been very involved in the youth art scenes with exhibits, workshops, and juried shows. Partnering with local artist Billy Goodcat, who is here over there. Hey, Billy. He doesn't want to come up. A collaborative mural has been designed and is being executed by these students. These special programs do not have the funds or opportunities to provide art in their curriculum. Creative development, tactile learning, community input, teamwork, and pride are essential elements of success for the students attending these classes. The mural is being painted during June in a segment of alley between the Bleeding Carrot and the Milk Maid in downtown Owen Sound. A plaque will be hung at the conclusion of this venture, recognizing the sponsor to help make this enlightening experience happen. The imagery is a butterfly. It's hard to see it now without the really bright colors, but the butterfly is a symbol of transformation. We're teaching these students, transforming them by showing them that art is not as difficult, giving them ideas that they might not have thought of pursuing, and really transforming the really crappy wall. Shards of color and light are emanating from the back and front of its body, creating a visual feast of energy and excitement. This vibrant mural can be seen at a distance from 9th Street if you're standing in front of the Roxy Theatre. And it's bound to create interest and discussion about the combined art in this alley, soon to be dubbed Artist Alley. Many murals are already adorn the alley thanks to the Bleeding Carrot Alley project, and hopefully these walls will continue to host all kinds of public art. Barry Crystalbink has been fabulous in allowing these images on the walls of businesses he owns, and many other of the business people downtown have been nothing but supportive about creating a gallery of public art in these back alleys. Next. We have just begun, and proof that public art ventures like this are supported and encouraged by everyone has been apparent in the few days that we have been painting. People have stopped and asked what is happening. 100% have been positive and excited, and continue to return to check out our progress. On our first day of painting, lunch was donated by a local restaurant, Casero's Kitchen Table, which is opening up in Vern's Donut. And it was delicious. These kids had never had tacos before, and they were another whole education in the food groups. This served as a great example to our students in showing the importance of community connections and the appreciation of community members of our endeavor. That's Jen Clem, who's playing ball. You can see here our progress so far. I hope I've impressed with you on how excited we are about this venture, and that our enthusiasm encourages you to take a stroll down Artist Alley and see the transformation of a ratty wall into a piece of beautiful public art. With your approval, we will continue spray painting, and we welcome you to come view our progress. Actually, we invite you to come down and try your hand at graffiti. It's super fun, and it makes you feel just kind of slightly rebellious and a bit edgy. It really is fun. You bring back your youth. We'll be there every day this week from 11 till 3 p.m. And really, come down, grab a paint. Julie will teach you what to do. It's very liberating, actually. I thank you for your attention and your support to this project.
Good, thank you. Questions? Councillor Lemon?
Well, at the beginning of this, when the first painting was done on the wall close to 2nd Avenue, I was walking down there, didn't know about it. I thought, what? And then I spent a whole bunch of time going back and forth, and I think this is a wonderful project because those walls are not particularly attractive. And this is adding to the attraction of them. I'm particularly interested in the fact that you're painting the old National Grocers building, which is just fabulous. And all power to you and congratulations. I just was like, how did this happen all of a sudden? I think it's wonderful. And I certainly think we should encourage this. It's going to make our downtown unique. And I think it's wonderful.
Well, it is, and in that back alley especially, there's reason to go back there besides taking your dog to go to the bathroom or cutting through something. I mean, it's a reason for people to want to use that back alley really well. It's beautiful walls back there, and we're really excited to make it a place where people want to go, a destination.
Good. Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Worship. Morag, I just want to make sure I understood you. You're inviting council to come down there and spray paint the wall. You want Peter Lemon spray painting your wall.
If he wants to.
They didn't even have spray paint when Peter was
We'll set him up with a mask and a candle.
God knows for you, spray painting is older than you are.
And I'm sure I'll pay for that.
I still have all my hair about
yes,
that.
I know. Your Worship, there's a report on our agenda. I'm wondering if we should move that forward for discussion at this point.
Is that like 11A1 by chance?
That would be it.
So moving that ahead. Whose report is it? Ms. Coulter, do you want to present it?
Thank you, Worship. The report outlines the definition of public space, and perhaps the definition that's missing from the report is public art. And it talks about, I'm sure some of you are wondering, you know, it's in a private alley, why is it here before us? But it's a publicly accessible outdoor location, and hence the need for approval as per the public art policy. Morag's done a wonderful job of explaining the partnership and the concept and the enthusiasm for the project and the benefit for the youth involved. You know, this mural will be created by local at-risk students with a wonderful partnership with the Tom Thompson Art Gallery and, the Artist Co-op and the private property owner. Staff recommend approval of the public art policy, just with the caveat that if they are doing any work on the public sidewalk, that they would get a street occupation permit.
Thank you. Councillor McManaman?
I'll move the recommendation.
And any discussion? Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you very much. In our culture master plan, it asks us to prepare a policy for this. Have we done that? So
yes, we have.
We have a policy. So we're following the policy by doing this. So do we have to treat everyone that comes as a separate one, or can we not just deal with it?
The policy now contemplates that the projects would actually come through committee to council, the Cultural Advisory Committee. Given the timing of this project, we brought it straight to council. One of the items on our work plan for this year is a review of that public art policy through the committee, so that's something that perhaps Councillor Thomas will remind us of when we get to that review.
I think so. Thank you.
Councillor Lemon?
I was chair of the Culture Committee. We originally brought that in, and that was contemplated for art in public places in the sense that it was on city property. I really question if we have any jurisdiction on the side of somebody's building that's not on, like that laneway is a private laneway. The only public access you have is by theoretical trespass on it. I just wonder if this isn't a little overkill in terms of what's going on in the building. If I were to paint that building all red, which I'm not suggesting we're going to do with that art there, trust me, we'd have no jurisdiction. So, or blue or green or purple. So why do we have jurisdiction if they want to put art on it? And I question that if we do have jurisdiction.
Ms. Coulter, do you want to respond to that?
The policy refers to publicly accessible indoor or outdoor locations. We consider this a publicly accessible. It's highly visible from 9th Street. It's visible from 2nd Avenue. We consider it as the policy says, a publicly accessible outdoor space. You're correct. It is on a private property, and they have the permission from the private landowner.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Kepke?
Thank you, Your Worship. Could I just ask, is it anticipated that any work may be taking place on the public right-of-way, above the public right-of-way, that you might need a street occupancy permit for?
I don't think so. There's no, I'm not sure I understand.
Well, it's subject to a street occupancy permit being purchased if there was work that took place above the public right-of-way.
I think maybe I should go to Ms. Coulter to answer that, because that won't be something that you'll necessarily have knowledge of.
So if there is work proposed outside of the alley on 2nd Avenue on the sidewalk, we had just talked about you getting a street occupation permit. When I talked to Morag, I was leaving, she was busy, and so we just put that in there as a catch-all in case that they would be occupying the sidewalk. Sounds like she isn't, so it's not a requirement, only if required.
Good.
So you don't anticipate doing anything like that? No. And if they did, what would the cost of a street occupancy permit be?
It's $50, but it's not required.
And insurance and all that stuff, but that's not the case here, so.
Thank you.
It's moot. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Good, that's carried. And I think Billy Goodcat did do a mural with the art gallery in the back of the Roxy Theater that you can see from the parking lot back there. That's pretty fabulous. So he's building a reputation of good art in town. So congratulations, thank you. If I can, with everyone's consent, skip back to additional items. I asked everyone else if they had additional items and did not mention 4 of my own. If I can add them onto that list, put them onto the record. And one was the a 2017 committee. Next one is Truth and Reconciliation Committee recommendations, Pan Am torch that maybe Councillor Larry and I will double up on, and the 4th one is our strategic plan with public dates coming up. Just add those. So jumping back then to number 9, public question period. If there's any questions from the public for council. Seeing none, I'll move on to number 10, correspondence received for which direction of council is required. There's a letter from Minister McMeekin, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. There's a number of important consultations taking place here. I'm just not sure how we go about, as a city, responding to them. You know, the Municipal Act, the City of Toronto Act, which has a number of provisions in it that are special, that perhaps should be considered for all municipalities. The Elections Act, so the conflict of interest. So I'm just not sure. I think all of these we need to comment on. I'm not sure how. The only one that's really timely is the Elections Act, where it talks about a ranked ballot. And again, that's an important issue. I'm not sure, I certainly don't understand it fully. And I'd maybe look to the city manager. How would you suggest we deal with some of these?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be attending a CAO conference in July, and a number of these are going to be covered there in webinars and seminars, so I will certainly be attending them, bringing them back to council, reporting what others are doing on this consultation process. The one that probably does have a 60-day time limit is the Municipal Elections Act, and perhaps the clerk and I will work on getting a report to council on the salient points in that. I see the clerk would like to speak.
Through your worship, the bylaw coordinator has already begun working on a report for the next council meeting regarding the Municipal Elections Act review.
Way ahead of us. Good. Thanks. Other comments?
Well, just motion to receive the letter and ask staff to bring back reports on all the issues. When is that?
Appropriate reports?
Appropriate reports at appropriate timeline. There's a pretty vague motion.
Yeah. No, it's not our most vague ever, I doubt. But other comments? Okay, I'll call the vote in favor of that motion. That is carried. Thank you. Reports of committee, so we're at 11A reports. We've already covered off one. Down to number 2, which is report from Mr. Ritchie regarding the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Incorporation. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's a report before council tonight on the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Incorporation proposal. I'll just go over a few of the key points for the public in the audience as well as the public at home. The Tom Thompson Art Gallery is one of Owen Sound's cultural cornerstones. Since inception, the Tom Thompson Art Gallery has had support from hundreds of volunteers, donations from private collections, and city taxpayer funding support. Council must ensure that the collection is professionally maintained and protected and displayed in Owen Sound. The Tom Thompson Art Gallery Board would like to become a standalone, separate, incorporated charitable organization. In September 2014, Council approved in principle that concept based on a report from the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Board titled Incorporation of the Tom Thompson Gallery. In May 2015, the board presented a document to council titled The Case for Incorporation and Expansion of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. Tonight's report focuses on possible incorporation and not the possible expansion. If the Tom Thompson Art Gallery incorporates as a standalone, separate, incorporated charitable organization, possible expansion would be undertaken by that corporation and not the City of Owen Sound. Some key incorporation issues that were discussed at the May 5th, 2015 meeting include the transfer of current employees. Working with the Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System, or OMERS, and the new entity, it appears that all coverage available to city employees may be achieved. There will be agreements to be signed, but it looks like that may be achieved. Ownership and transfer of the current art collection. Currently, the collection is owned by the City of Owen Sound. The Tom Thompson Art Gallery Board would like the collection transferred to them via a trust agreement. A loan agreement with a simple termination clause may make taking possession of the collection easier and quicker should council feel it necessary at any time. Municipal property taxation for Incorporated Art Gallery, working with the new entity and with the approval from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, or MPAC, it appears that exempt status for taxation may be achieved. I should point out, if the Tom Thompson Art Gallery achieves registered charitable designation status, they would qualify automatically for a 40% property tax exemption for charities. Future funding commitments from the city to the Incorporated Art Gallery. Currently, the city supports them to the tune of $282,470. Future support requested through to 2020 is $325,000 per year. Incorporation alone should not increase expenses or require additional city financial support. Council's present term expires in 2018, and Council cannot commit to support after your term. Governance model for the incorporated entity. An open board is a board of directors elected by the general membership of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery at its annual meeting. The Tom Thompson Art Gallery Board suggests a hybrid board with 9 of the 5 members being from the original incorporating members. Another hybrid board may include equal members elected at large, as well as appointed to the board by the city. Let me reread that, Your Worship. Another hybrid board model may include equal members elected at large and appointed by the board, with city-appointed board members making an uneven number for voting purposes. In other words, there wouldn't be no voting blocks. The city membership would offset any voting blocks from the incorporating members or the members at large. The more open the board election process, the more opportunity for input from the membership. The Transition Committee of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery have devoted considerable time and effort to the concept of incorporation. There will be a myriad of other details to be addressed in any final arrangement. The more precise council's direction on the issues presented this evening can be articulated, the more productive future meetings between the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Board and city staff will be. And certainly, Your Worship, I would be interested to hear council's input.
I think the first hand I saw go up was Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a couple of points here that, the first one, I'll just read the paragraph and then I'm just looking for a comment from you. Should the art gallery incorporate and attain status as an eligible charity, they would have the ability to issue donation receipts for income tax purposes. This would allow for all future donations of artworks to be donated to and owned by the new entity should the donor wish. It should be noted, and this is the part that I'm concerned about, it should be noted that these works would not have any city controls or safeguards placed on them. So the way I'm seeing this is we're going to take $20 million in art and hand it over to a group of people. They're going to start getting new donations, potentially 30 years down the road. That $20 million in art of ours is going to be here, and they could have another $30 million in art here. Are we not creating this giant split, or am I reading this wrong?
There certainly would be two ownership plans, absolutely. The 2,600 pieces, I believe, roughly, the value, I'm not sure exactly what it is, would be owned by the city. We would have an inventory at any time. I believe with the termination agreement, we could ask for that back. Any that the new entity, if they can achieve charitable registration status, would be able to issue their own, and they would own that product. So you are correct. There would be two streams of ownership of the collection.
All right. Okay, and the other one is a question, another paragraph. The Transition Committee suggests the city enter into a trust agreement to transfer the current collection to the new entity. Looking at the sample trust agreement, it appears that should the city want to retake possession of the collection, there would be an arbitration process. And then it goes on to say this termination clause would ensure that should the majority of council ever feel the need to take control of the collection, it could do so simply and quickly. Simply and quickly does not seem the right words if we're dealing with arbitration, for one. And two, can we not keep the art and they can still be a separate nonprofit organization?
Through your worship, I would say I'm probably, I wouldn't say recommending, but I'm suggesting to council that you may wish to retain ownership of the current collection that we do own and loan it to the new entity as a loan with a termination clause that should council ever feel the need, there won't be an arbitration process. We will give them notice that we are taking the collection back. I think part of this is now is the time for the city to consider out clauses. We hope it never happens, but now's the time to consider what happens if we do need an out clause. This is the time, not later. Arbitration, to me, exactly as arbitration. It can be long, it can be costly, and a termination clause is pretty simple. The majority of council doesn't like something for whatever reason, and they would say, we want to take that back, give them notice, with just reason. So the other clauses in the trust agreement look fine to me. I can't see going through, just to protect the city taxpayers' interest, I can't see going through an arbitration process.
So they can still incorporate.
Yes.
And we keep the art, like,
yes,
without that transfer.
That's my
and
thinking.
And they still get what they want by getting the donations that they're looking for, that the people are not donating to the city because they're
if people
incorporated.
wish to donate to the new entity, they have every right to. We obviously would still continue to probably issue donation receipts ourselves should they wish, for the protection of the city. I don't see why that would be a problem.
Right. Okay, thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Dodd had his hand up, and then Lemon, and then Deputy Mayor Wright.
Great, thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Litter, you bring up some good points. We could spend all day or all night going through this bit by bit by bit and then sending this back, and we could be in a whirlwind, and it's going to take forever for us to kind of finally get an answer. To help expedite this process, I think we, as a council, need to create a subcommittee with this report and have representatives from the city council, 2 representatives that can work in unison with the transition committee from the art gallery and try to come to some common ground on some of these issues. Obviously, there's issues that we're strong pointed on, and there's going to be some issues that they are, but I think if we go into a subcommittee, it gives us a fair opportunity that we can look at all those issues and we can kind of break it down a little bit further. For me personally, when we look through this, there's a lot of things what we can do and what we might want to do and what the transition committee might want to go forward with. But I just think if we did create a subcommittee, we'd be able to kind of get those answers a little bit quicker, and we can make a stand on how we feel. So I would make a motion that with that motion that we would create that subcommittee, include 2 separate city representatives from council, and would be able to collaborate with the transition committee from the art gallery. I would also recommend 2 councillors. Well, Your Worship, I believe you'd be a great representative on the board as a mayor and CEO of the corporation. I think you'd be a good fit for it. And Councillor Thomas, I know you've worked with some work with the Community Waterfront Foundation with other past museums. So I thought those 2 would be a good fit. I'll leave it up to you 2 to make that decision.
I've questions for that. How big a committee? How many from the art gallery? Did you think that through? Have you put any?
I guess further, I guess we need to have, we'd like to keep it probably smaller. I guess the smaller that committee would be, if we're doing 2 representatives from council, if we had 2 representatives from the transition committee, maybe city manager, maybe, I'm not sure.
Probably be there anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your motion.
That'd be my motion.
I may come back to you after the discussion goes. Councillor Lemon, I think I've got you next.
Thank you, Your Worship. One thing is, under our procedural bylaw, Councillor Dodd would automatically be a member of that committee because the bylaw says that the person who proposes the committee is automatically a member of it. So it'd have to be 3 members of council if you wanted those 2 other people.
Is that fact?
Unless that bylaw has changed, and I don't believe it has.
You know what, maybe I'll get you to make another motion in a second, just if that's what you want to do, because I don't know that that's fact or fiction, but you can fix that in a minute.
Okay, well, that was in the past, that was the policy. I still think it is in effect. I don't think it's been rescinded. But I do have a couple of comments, and one of the concerns I have is the legal ownership of the art. I have no problems for us to loan the art collection, the existing art collection, to the new organization in the same way that they loan paintings from private collections and other areas. I think that's the best solution to that. The other thing that to me is something we have to look at very, very carefully is the structure of the board. I do not like closed boards. I can see having maybe a couple people appointed by the board, but by far the majority appointed by the membership, because they are the ones that do the work to make the gallery work. So I don't disagree with having such a committee to look at it, but I think we have to be very careful of what we're creating, both for now and for the future. The one question that's not answered in anything I've seen is, and I expect this board is going to succeed, I'm not concerned, but you always have to plan on the worst case scenario. Granted, all the paintings owned by the city, if they were loaned, would automatically return to the city. There's no arbitration, there's no action that can be taken against them. But the residual art that would be collected between the date of the incorporation and, say, 100 years from now, there should be something in how that is disposed of in terms of your incorporation, because you don't want orphan paintings out there, which you could create. And so I think that has to be addressed and has not been yet addressed. There has to be some clause in there as to flow through with those paintings and which are being held in trust by the new organization.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Lemon. Deputy Mayor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a number of questions, but I'd like to see how this motion goes first.
Okay.
If the committee passes, I'll pass my questions on to the committee.
Okay, good. Thank you, Councillor McManaman. I think you had your hand up.
Thank you, Worship. I would ask for a friendly amendment that Councillor Dodd be added to that as part of the motion. I think as the art gallery member on there, Councillor Kepke appears to have some late-breaking information. But either way, as part of the motion, I'd like to ask if you consider sitting on it as well. I think as the council rep on the art gallery board, that's a natural fit. So there'd be 3 members in the ad hoc group.
Can Councillor Dodd move a motion with a friendly amendment to appoint himself?
Yeah,
Is there
I think
nothing
so.
wrong with that? There should be nothing wrong with that, right? Go ahead. There we go. So bylaw 2007, 242, section 9. Thank you. 9.2. You want to read it, or can I read it? No. Okay. Any member of council who sponsors a resolution for the appointment of a special committee shall be a member thereof. So Councillor Lemon, we didn't have to go too far back. Councillor Kepke had that in her drawer. Member sponsoring a measure shall, if a special committee is appointed to consider the same, be a member of such special committee. So you're stuck with it. You can't say no now. There we go. That answers the question, and that removes Councillor McManaman's friendly amendment. Councillor Kepke.
Just a little comment. When you made the motion to appoint individuals to a city hall review committee as well, I don't know if we're backing that up or not, but you didn't get on there.
Darn. Well, I'm not going to worry about that one right now, but
Yeah, let's just stay on the one we're on here right now. So that's fine. I'm okay with that. I have no problem doing that.
So to discuss all issues, a committee of how many?
So I guess that would bring us to 5. Because there'd be 2.
Is it not correct, though, that the mayor is ex officio of all committees? So the mayor doesn't really need to be appointed to that committee. Your committee still remains at the number. The mayor is automatically a member as an ex officio.
It's non-voting.
Right. But unless you state that it is a voting.
Councillor Dodd, what was your intent? Rules, rules, rules. You need
Jeez,
a lawyer around
wow.
here.
You're a lawyer, Fred.
Jeez, I guess I should be keeping that.
Got a decent one.
Yeah, keep that procedural bylaw close by. All right, so I would hope they'd be voting in this. I guess
So leave it as is? Is that?
Yeah, I guess the next thing is, do we need to have it with 5, or is it something else that?
Keep life simple. Go ahead, Councillor McManaman.
I think we appoint who we wish to appoint, and the art gallery board will appoint who they wish to appoint. I think we just leave it at our 3 members, form an ad hoc committee, and move on.
Councillor Dodd sits in both, so he's the.
There we go. I'm the middle man. Middle man.
Okay. Further discussion. All in favor? That is carried. Councillor Wright, you want to
Just to
comment before we vote?
comment that we need to get all our concerns and questions to this committee before they have a meeting.
Okay, was that a motion before, or did we, I think we carried, right?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. Okay, Madam Clerk? Okay, Councillor Kepke, I think, is moving to receive Mr. Ritchie's report.
I am.
She has. All in favor? There we go. That's carried. Thank you. Number 3, Ms. Sebesta, Human Resources Supervisor with regard to holiday closing this year. Welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. We are requesting your approval tonight for the 2015 holiday closure schedule. The proposed schedule, as you can see...
Can you hold on just for a second, please? If I could ask the reporters to maybe ask their questions downstairs. It's too hot in here to close the doors. And we can't hear anything when there's a conversation just outside the door. I apologize, but it's extremely hot in here, and please go ahead.
The proposed schedule, as you can see, is to close at 1 p.m. on December 24th, and remain closed on December 25th. The public holiday recognized on December 26th would flip to the Monday, December 28th, as per our current QP 1189 collective agreement, as well as our non-union policy. The city offices would be open from December 29th until December 31st, and then closed again on Friday, January 1st. In addition to the holiday closure schedule, we are also requesting that City Council approve employees who are required to work on the 24th not be required to use their vacation or lieu time for the 3.5 hours in the afternoon that we will be closed.
Good questions. Councillor Lyman.
Hey, what about the 31st? Are we asking for early close then?
No.
Thank you.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. When you look at the table, there's many municipalities that are closed right through that week. I seem to recall we did that one year, and then there was some issues with the union. I guess I'm not sure who this question's to. Is there a particular reason why we couldn't close those days and have that time as staff using banked lieu time to?
We did give this proposal to the union for the closure, and they had no objections to it. The current one, yes. So there isn't, I don't think, a particular reason why we couldn't propose a different closure, but in an effort to provide the service to the community. And we did have some pushback from union members about being required to use their vacation and lieu time for those 3 days that we would be closed. That was, I believe, 3 or 4 years ago when we had that.
Ms. Sebastian, I'm just going to go to Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Your Worship. There is a number of work year-end rollovers that have to certainly happen during that period, and so a number of staff are in, and the year we did that, there was some angst amongst the staff members who were forced to take time off. We just thought they didn't seem to be in disagreement with this, as Annie said. So.
Councillor Kepke.
That was my question.
Oh, okay, answered. Okay, so we've got a report in front of us. Councillor Thomas.
I'll move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Report from Ms. Bloomfield with regard to encroachment agreement. Number 4.
Through Your Worship, Marianne and Maldwin Williams applied for an encroachment agreement for property at 795 2nd Avenue West. The application is for an air conditioning unit which would extend 4 feet onto the city's 2nd Avenue West road allowance. The application was circulated to city staff, and there were no objections to the application. Therefore, the staff recommendation is that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an encroachment agreement between the city and the Williams with the provision that will require them to remove the encroachment within 6 months of receiving notice from the city to do so.
Thank you. Discussion, Ms. Kepke.
I went by here and didn't see an air conditioning unit there. Is it not in the, it's not there now? It must be huge if it's 4 feet out of the window. Just.
I actually haven't seen the unit, but I believe they're waiting for approval before they put it in.
Wow.
Go ahead, Mr. Becking.
Your Worship, there are several other units that are already approved. This is simply another unit for another one of the townhouses.
It's a ground unit, correct?
Yes,
it's not a window unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason for it being put out front is because there is no room for it or place for it in the rear of the townhouses.
These are the townhouses that are close to the street at the library corner.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Knowing it's a ground unit, then I'll approve the recommendation in the report.
You'll move?
Move approval of the recommendation in the report.
Start calling you Queen.
Yeah.
Other discussion? All in favor of that motion? That is carried. Thank you. Number 5 on the list, Manager of Planning and Heritage with regard to Buckner Manufacturing Site Plan Approval.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an application by GM Blue Plan on behalf of Buckner Manufacturing. This is an existing business in our industrial park located on the east side of 16th Avenue East. They currently have a 4,600 square foot building, and they're proposing an expansion to that on the north side of about 4,800 square feet, together with an expansion of their parking and truck turnaround. The lands are designated employment and hazard in our official plan, and certainly that employment designation contemplates just what's being proposed, the expansion and retention of existing industrial manufacturing type uses. The review of the zoning bylaw concludes that the site and building regulations are upheld by the proposal. There are sufficient parking spaces. The plan has been reviewed by the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and they have also endorsed or recommended council approve that plan. So the recommendation, Your Worship, is that in consideration of the report for the addition to Buckner Manufacturing at 2055 16th Avenue East, that council grant site plan approval subject to the conditions outlined in Appendix A. And also that we approve a bylaw authorizing the site plan agreement, and that's on council's agenda in order to keep this moving.
Thank you. I think Councillor Lemon's hand went up first.
I would certainly be pleased to move the recommendation on this. It's nice to see expansion of our smaller industries, and let's give them approval and let them start construction.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
I just support the recommendation. I think this is a good news story for us.
Another one. Good. Anyone else? So call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 6 is a report from Environmental Superintendent with regard to municipal council blanket support for rooftop solar projects. Mr. Backing, you presenting that?
Thank you, Your Worship. The independent electrical system operators have recently introduced the FIT4 program for rooftop solar power projects, and are calling for proposals for installations. That one such proposal is proposed from the Heritage Mall for proposed rooftop installation. We understand that there are a number of proposed installations that were submitted under the FIT3 program, the predecessor program, which were not approved, and those property owners are proposing to submit another application. When the proposals are sent to the independent operator, they are reviewed and evaluated according to a scoring system. One of the conditions or criterion is support from the local municipality for the concept of rooftop installations. Given the number of potential applications that may be forthcoming, staff are requesting delegated authority to indicate municipal support for the application. It gives each applicant another box that can be ticked off in the evaluation process, and there is no implications for the municipality in terms of taking on any responsibility for these proposed installations. So it's effectively a housekeeping issue to hopefully keep other such applications off council's table.
And does this blanket, have a time limit?
Council may wish to impose a limitation for the duration of the program.
Okay. So other questions? Discussion? Councillor Lemon?
I would move that if it's not already been moved, and it would be for the length of the new program.
Great.
We can put them on City Hall.
Maybe we can. Calling the question, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 7 is a report from Manager of Engineering Services with regard to 8th Street East reconstruction. Mr. Backing, Mr. Webb is going to update us. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, members of council. You have the report before you, but just for the benefit of the gallery, public gallery at the meeting tonight, and the media, plus the viewers at home watching Rogers. If you just indulge with me, I'll just give you a quick summary of the report. Council will recall that the contract for the 8th Street East reconstruction was awarded back on February 9th of this year. The contractor started work on March 30th, and the slope failure actually occurred on May 19th in the afternoon. Following the failure, the Ministry of Labor was notified, and an inspector from the Ministry of Labor attended the site the next day and met with our consulting engineer, the contractor, and city staff to review the situation and determine a way forward in terms of how to address the slope failure. Obviously, with this happening, construction was halted because the immediate site around the failure was no longer safe for workers or the public to be in that area. So under the stop work orders that were issued, there were two. The first stop work order was to address the immediate area in front of the homes and to achieve access for the homeowners in order for them to be able to get access through their vehicles or driveways in two cases. And then the second part of the order was to address more of a long-term solution, which would be a remediation and stabilization of the slope. And really what that means is a repair that would happen to the failure area before the construction over the area, in other words, construction of the pipes, the services, and the road could continue. So that stop work order was issued on that date. Since that time, our consulting engineer, who had a sub-consultant who had specialty in geotechnical engineering, who did the original design to address the geotechnical issues of the project, was brought on site and started to do some analysis of the failure. However, in the meantime, there had to be an immediate repair to the area to stabilize the slope to ensure that there was no further failure or any endangerment to the public or the workers on site. So just last week, that short-term repair was addressed in its completeness. And I have photographs that I'll just go over with council in a minute. As it turns out, the Ministry of Labor inspector did come back to the site on the 19th of last week. I'm sorry, the 11th of June last week. And based on the repairs that had been put in place and the action was taken, plus the plan that was presented by the geotechnical engineer, has in fact an update to this report. The inspector has in fact lifted the stop work orders. So this is good news because the interim repairs met the satisfaction of the Ministry of Labor, and they're satisfied that the area is safe. And secondly, that will allow the engineers, our geotechnical engineers and our consulting engineers, to move ahead with putting out forward a plan to address the failure. So as of today, in order to come up with a design, they have to take additional boreholes to determine more precisely what soil conditions exist in the failure area, beneath the failure area, and around the failure area. So there was a drilling rig on site today, and they'll be there again tomorrow, to take these boreholes and take soil samples so that they can address the repair that needs to be done. It will take a few weeks to generate the design. However, it does not need to go back to the Ministry of Labor for approval. I believe the inspector was satisfied with the process in place, and through the issuance of the lifting of the order, I think has indicated their confidence in the process that's taken place and going forward. So if I just ask for the photographs. Thank you, Jamie. So the short-term repair had to address a number of facets, I suppose, of stabilizing and protecting the slope. So one of the things that had to be done was the failure area had to be covered and tarped. The purpose of this is to prevent any further rainfall from entering into the soils and the subsurface soils in the area, so that that water doesn't destabilize the existing soils. So the tarps have been placed, and while we're looking at this photograph, one of the other measures that was taken was there had to be a subdrain put in that would relieve the groundwater from entering into the failure area and get it out of those granulars in soils so that it doesn't saturate them and cause further instability. So that subdrain, although we can't see it, is actually buried in the granulars that were placed under the tarp. If we just go to the next photo, just up slope of the failure area, this is 8th Street East looking west. There's if you look at the black dark material that's basically cold mix, that is placed across the road to intercept any surface drains that's running down the grade of the hill and directing it to catch basins. So again, a measure taken to direct or capture any water so that it doesn't enter the failure area. Next slide, please, Jamie. Thank you. This is just a photograph of the roof water leader from the homes that's been captured through a big old pipe, and it's connected to the drainage system so that it doesn't run into the failure area. It's being directed to the sewers. Next photo. This is actually the subsurface drainage from the groundwater system that's temporarily connected to the storm manhole, and it's draining away from the site safely. And it's actually, this is the last storm manhole that was installed just before the failure took place. So it's fortunate that that's actually in place and there's a safe way to drain away the groundwater. Next slide. This is a sanitary manhole, and of course, because of the replacement of the services, the upstream combined sewer was still functioning. It was capturing rainwater, surface water, as well as sewage. So that had to be intercepted, and it was, and a temporary pipe was installed and connected to the existing sewer and redirected into the sanitary manhole downstream, and that's the new manhole that's also taking away that drainage. So there's a combination of surface drainage as well in that. Because it's mixed, it's considered wastewater, so it has to go to the wastewater treatment plant for treatment. Next photograph. This is the drilling rig that's on site, and before the drilling rig could enter the failure zone, we had to make it safe. So that stop work order on the temporary stabilization had to be lifted before the boreholes could be advanced to get additional soils information. So that was, there was some concern that they would have some difficulty getting that drilling rig on site as soon as we did, but fortunately they were able to expedite that, and that is in place as of today, and they'll be drilling again tomorrow. So with that information, the geotechnical engineer will be able to start working on the failure analysis as well as the solution to repair the slope. And I think that's it. So with that, there's essentially a recommendation in the report to receive the information. And also, I guess a prudent measure would be to contact the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs to advise them that we've had this bit of a setback, and just make sure that the funding which we've received from the ministry, which is $2 million for this project, is not put in jeopardy. And I might add, just as a final note, that the overall schedule of completion for the contract has been only delayed by about 2 weeks. So if we remain diligent and staff work with the contractor and the consultants to get this back on schedule, we should be able to complete the project pretty well within the original time frame. And I would then complete my report. If council has any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them.
Questions, council? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you. Mr. Webb, the costs for this process that you've just outlined, how is that being covered?
All of the costs are being tracked by the engineers, our consulting engineers, as well as the contractor. It'll be done most likely in the contractor's case on a time and materials basis. So the costs are being recorded. We will have a better idea of what the final cost for the repair will be once the design is completed, and then the engineering consultant will be able to determine what that cost will be. The work done so far is being tracked, and that will, as to who pays and how that gets resolved, will work through a process through the various insurance companies representing each of the parties involved.
Councillor
I'll move acceptance of the report, but I just, I don't think we should let it go by without discussing the homeowner that's been most affected by this, Mr. Asquith. Thank you. I live in the area, and I happened to talk to him just on Saturday. He was, I'm not sure you could get a more reasonable person to deal with. He's been, you know, at least from my perspective, talked to him several times, been excellent to deal with, and he was very complimentary about this, about city staff as well, how they've been talking to him, the engineering staff, Mr. Potter in particular, Mr. Ritchie. Anyway, he was, I just, you know, I can't imagine what that guy's going through, and he's been great to deal with, at least from my perspective. And again, he had nothing to say on Saturday, but good things to say about how the city's dealt with him. So,
going to go to Mr. Becking.
Your Worship, I'm taking responsibility for that issue. I can tell you that I was working the phones most of the morning dealing with the city solicitor, our insurance adjuster. I've spoken to both the contractors as well as our consulting engineers. And I can tell you that a meeting is organized for Friday of this week amongst our insurer and our adjuster to look at a path forward in an effort to expedite it so that Mr. Asquith is not lost in the shuffle, shall we say.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Seeing none, we have a motion to, with regard to the recommendations, receive the report and notify OMAFRA of any potential extension. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you. It seems to be engineering night. Number 8 is verbal report from Mr. Prentice, manager of water and wastewater. So the engineers are outnumbering the planners tonight.
I didn't know I signed up for marine archaeology, by the way. The purpose of my update tonight is basically 3 reasons. To provide an update of the marine archaeologist's findings, their implications for the outfall project, and a general summary of the next steps. So this first image is taken from the marine archaeologist's report, and I'm going to walk up to the screen. The purpose of this is to back up. This, as you've heard about, is the Dan Proctor. This is our outfall pipe using the plan. You can see the proximity is extremely close to the Proctor, it's only 2 meters away from the site. And our original plan to construct a T, the outfall diffuser constructed in that area, has not been undertaken as a result of the presence of the Proctor. But that's not a big deal. We're going to use a different formation, or an L shape for the diffuser, and the cost implications were relatively negligible. The second one, this shows the location of the Proctor, as well as 2 other wrecks that happen to be found south of the Proctor. They are well outside the construction area, so they do not impact the project. Having said that, it's a mystery of what they are. We don't have an identification on wrecks 2 and 3. We believed one of them for some time was the C.J. McGill, a 2-masted schooner from the 1860s. We now think it might actually be something older than that. There are 2 wrecks in one in that area. One of them is about 160 feet long, the other one about 60 feet long. So we don't know what they are. They're well outside the project area, however, and we've documented their location for posterity, I suppose. So the next, that is the Dan Proctor. That image was provided to us by the Marine and Rail Museum. That is the wreck. It was originally a schooner constructed in the 1890s. It was a 3-masted schooner. It was converted to a barge and was used by Keenans for some time. It was abandoned in the 1930s in place. So this picture's, I'm going to guess, from the 1920s. I'm basing that assumption on the hats that they're wearing. So I have a couple of videos to show you. The second part of the outfall investigation was the use of a robot to achieve this footage. So this one here is the Proctor. And the robot's following the gunnel up to the prow of the ship, I believe. And that's all the nautical terminology I have, and I'm done with nautical terminology now. But it's quite defined. We've tried to find the best footage available, and I don't hear our soundtrack.
Gilligan's Island.
So this is the prow of the ship. This is the structure that's closest to the outfall pipe. In this video, you can't actually see the outfall pipe, but it's just basically over to our right. This will be looking towards shore. The use of the robot by the marine archaeologist. First of all, they're cheaper than commercial divers, and secondly, they have equipment on them that can geodetically reference the machine at any moment, so that enables for some very good mapping. Again, originally a three-masted schooner, converted to a barge and scuttled in place probably in the early 1930s. Close to the end, Jamie? You'd probably cut that there. Yeah. Okay. So the second video is of the two older ships. You can hear theme music now. That was IT's idea. I had to talk them out of using the Jaws theme. This is two wrecks in one, sunk in the same location. If you can get that from this, you're better at marine archaeology than I am. It just looks like a bunch of wood. I'll tell you that this one, based on the construction, is believed to be older than we thought it was. So the C.G. McGill was what we thought it was, a two-masted schooner from the 1860s. She thinks it's older than that. Not spectacularly older, not like 1700s, but from, well, they might have both been sunk at the same time, it's hard to say. but these were both sunk before 1909 because there's pier structures that are rammed through, like placed through the wrecks, and those piers were built in 1909. So, pardon? I'm sorry? I don't know. I don't know. I'm outside my realm of expertise with this stuff. I'm just...
So, Matt, I see there's another 2.5 minutes to go here on this, and I'm not sure if...
It's just the same.
It's pretty well the same. That's what I'm trying to ask.
We could
if
cut
it's going
right
to get
now,
more
sir.
exciting. We could cut it. That's yeah, I think.
Cut.
Okay, I think. Yeah, if we keep the music going for the rest of the council meeting, it'll relax everybody. Okay, I think maybe we'll, thank you.
Okay. The next steps with respect to the project and the implications of this, the change in orientation of the outfall pipe they haven't communicated any costs associated with that. The schedule implications, we were worried for a while that the control valves that are mounted at the end of the outfall pipe, they're special order, they take a long time to fabricate. We asked that those be expedited so that wouldn't delay the project. We've gotten word that it looks likely that they will, so there will be no second mobilization, no second dive to put the valves in place on the outfall pipe in the water, which would have had a cost implication. That's looking likely. I can't be certain though at this point. The news back from the suppliers, the valves are in fabrication right now. So with any luck, we'll have them in time to build everything on shore as per the original plan and sink all of it at once. So, just like the project.
Good. Questions? Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you very much. Have you seen any local divers or any divers trying to go down to see these ships?
I've seen nothing like that, but I'm not down there, so
no.
I wouldn't.
No, okay. I just wondered if they...
Yeah.
We need to receive this report. Okay, Councillor Kepke?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make a motion that we receive the report.
Verbal report. All in favor? It's carried. Good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 9, verbal report from Deputy Mayor Wright with regard to Grey County.
Thank you very much.
Councillor
Just a couple of things to report. We have a report coming to the corporate services on the question of taxable allowances for councillors, which may be of interest to our council. I don't know, have we approved that report yet, that we do get a taxable allowance? I know we do every year, don't we?
I believe we did it the first of the term, Your Worship, as opposed to every year.
Okay, well, it's going to be looked into by the county to see what the benefit is of it, etc. There was an agreement reached with our paramedics, a very good agreement for us. It was reached without any arbitration or anything like that, and it was a fair agreement. The most interesting topic at County Council this past meeting was over the county homes for the aged, and Rockwood Terrace in Durham needs an rehaul. It doesn't meet the standards, the government standards on social services anymore, and it's not in the best of shape. So the county has to do something with that. Either they have to make a decision either to do a major renovation or a major rebuild, and that raised a discussion on, does the county need to own 3 homes? Of course, we have the three, the one in Grey Gables in Markdale, the Lee Manor in Owen Sound, and Rockwood Terrace. So that municipal act says that the county only has to have one home, and these are fairly costly for taxpayers to maintain the three homes. So there will be, I believe, a special discussion held on the three homes. It's been talked about for 10 or 11 years now, and it's never really made a decision on, other than to say we're not going anywhere with it. So there will be a major decision whether or not to keep these three homes coming up. I just remind you that the Warden's breakfast is tomorrow morning at 7:30 at the Inn on the Bay. That's my report.
Good, thank you. 11B, consent agenda items. Ms. Bloomfield, can you present?
Yes, through your worship, on the consent agenda is a report from the facilities booking coordinator respecting the Tom McCartney Memorial Slow Pitch Tournament at Duncan McClellan Ballpark. There's two reports from the engineering assistant, one respecting the Communities for Veterans Foundation Trail Ride, and the other respecting 50's First Friday. There was a report from the planning assistant respecting a Georgian Bluffs planning application. There are planning notices where no report is triggered, minutes of boards and committees for receipt from the Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation and the Owen Sound Housing Company. And lastly, there is correspondence which is presented for the information of council.
Good, thank you. There's a recommendation for motion at the end of that. Somebody, Councillor Dodd? You've got it in front of you?
Yeah, I'd move the recommendation that we approve these, right? This is what we say, approve this time.
This one's receive.
We approve these ones. We approve.
I'm reading it off the page. It says hereby receive items 12A1 to 12A8 on the consent agenda dated June 15th, 2015, and further that the recommendations contained in 12A1 to 12A4 be approved. So that's what you're moving?
That's what I'm moving.
Councilor McMahon, is that a question first, or is that a vote? Council, go ahead.
I'd ask if we could pull the item correspondence from the town of the Blue Mountains about weighted voting to discuss separately.
Okay, so removing the item correspondence from town of Blue Mountains, and otherwise in favor of the motion on everything else. Hold on, Councillor.
Well, I do have a question with regard to 4, but I'm bringing it up under other business, so that'll be good enough.
Okay, so all in favor? That is carried. Just before, I'm going to go back, no, actually I'm not. I'm going to, before I go back to you, Councillor McManaman, I noticed there's minutes of boards and committees with for receipt, Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation. Councillor Lemon, anything in those that you want to present or set out for us tonight?
No, things are moving ahead on refurbishing some of the balconies, and that was going to be ongoing during the summer and fall.
Okay.
And but otherwise, we're full with a long waiting list.
Good, thank you. Now I'm going to go back to Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. There's a resolution here from the town of the Blue Mountains that requests that the method of voting currently utilized by the County of Grey, which is a weighted vote by the number of municipal electors, be reconsidered to a system by weighted vote by the municipal property assessment value. And that went to all municipalities, and I guess is going back to the county on June 23rd. So I'd just like to comment on that. I guess we don't direct our representatives of the county. I'm not sure if a motion from here would be in order. I guess it probably would be, but I hear what they're basically saying, that the system we have now is that the current form is that there's a recorded vote structure where our representatives get one vote for every 1,000 electors. They want to change that to some way that it would be based on your assessment, the amount of money that your municipality contributes to the county. I personally don't think that's the proper way to go. I don't think that's democratic. I don't think it's the right way. That's my personal view. I understand what they're saying, that they're paying the most, but our democratic system is based on one vote per person. If we're going to change that to voting by how much your property is worth, I think we're going down a very slippery slope. So, yeah, you know, taking away each elector's right to vote is not something I don't think we want to go. So, I would move that we receive the correspondence and that we do not support, and maybe we want to make it stronger than that. I'd look for any suggestions, but we do not support changing the method of voting the County of Grey from a system that a weighted vote that recognizes, I'm just looking for the number of municipal electors.
Thank you. Councillor Kepke.
Just a question to Deputy Mayor Wright. Is it the county that wants to change this, or the county wants it to remain the same?
Well, the county hasn't dealt with it yet. This is just coming to the county. It will come. It's going to be dealt with at one of the committee meetings. And in all fairness to the town of Blue Mountains, they do have a legitimate point in that they have so many of the people that have property live out of the area. And if they all lived in the area, then they probably would have a higher population. But the fact is, you need 2/3, in order to do something like that, you need 2/3 of the vote in favor of it at county, and 2/3 of the municipalities in favor of it at county. And it also can't be done until it's been approved by the ministry and brought forward at the next election. So it's a very difficult thing to change voting procedures, but I mean, I certainly accept what Councillor McManaman is saying, that this, by doing it by population, is the fairest way to go. Either that, or you do it by one vote, one municipality, one vote. So this is the fairest way.
Back to Councillor Kepke.
I would certainly support Councillor McManaman's motion to identify that we are only in favor of by population.
If I may just clarify, this isn't by population, this is by number of voters, if I'm...
Yeah, it is by number of voters.
So if you own property and you live in downtown Toronto, but you own property in Collingwood or, I keep wanting to call it Town of Blue Mountains, you'd still get a vote. Would you not, as a property holder? Yeah. Yes. So where their home address is doesn't matter. They would still get a vote.
You're right on that.
So it's one vote per 1,000 voters.
So I'll have to
not population
take them
voters.
Up
So
with them, because that's part of their argument.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll take it up with them.
Councillor Thomas. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kepke.
I just wanted to confirm that it is by electoral count, not population count.
No.
Councillor Thomas.
I'm going to support the motion as well. I think that changing to an assessment-based weighted vote system at the county would put some municipalities in Grey at a serious disadvantage. And I don't think Owen Sound is one of those. I think that there are a number of other smaller municipalities in the county that would really find their voices diminished at the county level if this were brought in. So I'm certainly not in favor of it, and I will support the motion.
And just one, sorry, Councillor Lemon, I keep cutting you off. Just one more fine point is this is just on weighted votes, which are called votes, right? It's not on every vote.
No, it's not
weighted votes. Councillor Lemon, go ahead.
Yeah, my question about that, you partially answered. I was quite sure anybody who owns land there, like the condo owners, they would all have votes.
Yep.
And so I'm just surprised their population isn't higher with all the condominiums, or do they count just the electors to the actual population? Which is on?
Number of electors. One vote per 1,000 electors is the way the county does it.
Okay, so that's, yeah, because mostly, I mean, you're not going to buy a condominium unless you're over the age of consent to vote, likely.
Legally, correct. So we have a motion in front of us. Any other comments? Everyone understands the motion? Councillor Gregg?
I'll gladly support the motion by Councillor McManaman. I don't think at any time an elector should be represented or be worth how much, or be represented as per how much they're worth.
Good, thank you. So I'll call the vote. All in favor of that motion? That is carried. Good, thank you. So that gets us through 11B, which is the consent items, and we're down to 11C, minutes of boards and committees for approval. Minutes of Accessibility Advisory Committee. Councillor Lemon, you presenting those?
Yes, I can. Actually, no, sorry.
It's Councillor O'Leary, sorry.
Councillor O'Leary this time, I did
Thank you,
last
Worship. We had a verbal report from Chris Hughes announcing the new bus routes that come into effect on June 15th, which is today. The route was changed to accommodate the residents of Mill Street Apartments on 14th Street West. Pamphlets of the new routes have been distributed to social services and other community agencies, including the CNIB. Sorry. Pamphlets are also available at City Hall. Mr. Hughes advised that some of the new bus routes will be modified due to construction and road closures on 8th Street and 3rd Avenue East. These changes are communicated to the public through the city's website and media releases. Signage is in place for all bus signs for these routes and for stops that are no longer being used. Stickers have been placed on the signs indicating out of service. We also approved the site plan proposal submitted by Buckner Manufacturing. And finally, we approved the site plan proposal as it relates to accessibility features submitted by Graham Construction for the redevelopment of the existing building located at 850 Alpha Street. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Are you moving approval of those minutes?
Yes, I am, sorry.
And any questions? All in favor? That is approved. Thank you. Number 2 is minutes of bylaw committee meeting held June 3rd, 2015.
Thank you, Your Worship. The bylaw committee dealt mainly with the backyard laying hens, received deputations from 2 individuals who identified benefits of including locals which included that being a local source of food and foster learning among their children and other benefits related to green initiatives. It was also discussed there may be misconceptions leading to the opposition of keeping backyard hens. We received information from the senior epidemiologist at the Grey Bruce Health Unit, and she was present to provide us a report that summarized health risks, monitoring proper disposition of deceased hens, and responsibilities in veterinary care. The committee discussed this report, and if it were allowed, she suggested that the number of hens be limited, that we not allow roosters, that owners be educated on the proper care and handling, and also egg washing, which was very important. She suggested a licensing program be put in place by the city. The committee discussed neighborhood support, zoning, insurance, enforcement, disposition of the deceased hens or unwanted hens, and education and licensing and the cost of administering such items. I'll just read the motion that the committee put forward in the minutes, that the bylaw committee table the staff report respecting the keeping of certain kinds of animals review process until further information can be provided respecting planning and zoning requirements and lot size, and that the Grey Bruce Veterinary Association has an opportunity to provide comments on backyard hens, including disposal of hens and manure, and that staff provide a summary of comparable municipal regulations on keeping of backyard hens. And I just wanted to note as well, there was a discussion regarding constrictive snakes at the meeting as well, but it wasn't noted in the minutes, so if that could be an amendment to the minutes, that there was a discussion regarding that, and that staff would be further bringing information on that back. And that's a report from this hen.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor O'Leary's got his hand up.
Yeah, I think I'd like to just put this to bed right now and make a motion that we do not allow chickens in the backyards of any resident in the city of Owen Sound. Thank you, Your Worship.
I'm looking at everyone's eyes getting big going, huh, what? Councillor Gregg?
I would like to take exception with Councillor O'Leary's motion. I think we should go through the proper procedure here and come forth with a knowledgeable, educated, and well-rounded report for us to be able to fairly make a conscientious decision. There's a lot of misinformation on this subject, and I mean, at this time, I'd like us to all be aware that even in the city of Vancouver, when they brought in backyard laying hens, and they were bound by restrictions very similar to these, only a couple dozen hen owners ever took them up on this. And this is the city of Vancouver. This is not something that's going to be spreading like wildfire through our community. I think we should all become knowledgeable and inform ourselves more so on this matter before we make a decision. So I would not support that.
Councillor Lemon?
Well, my background's in ag from Guelph, and I really don't believe that bringing chickens into backyards, I think it's going to create more issues than it's going to solve. I can just imagine our bylaw enforcement officers going around to determine whether it's a rooster or a hen. That could get really interesting. The other problem that I have is the disposal of the waste from chickens. It's very, very high in nitrogen. That nobody can argue. It's well documented. And the problem is that nitrogenous waste is going to end up in the stormwater and may cause algae blooms within the harbor and other areas. Chicken manure is fairly toxic compared to other manures, and I really don't think we want to open those doors, because hens are not the quietest thing in the world. I realize it's the rooster that makes the most noise, but there's going to be some roosters out there if you want fertile eggs. I mean, I won't go into that.
So Councillor Lemon, what you're saying is you can tell the difference from a rooster and a chicken by how much noise they make. Is this?
That's part of it, but the thing is, you're going to have cats that are going to go after the chickens. That's quite not uncommon. We have coons, skunks, bears, and I don't know what other livestock already in the city, not livestock, but animal life. Adding chickens to the mix isn't going to help.
To the soup. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Councillor Lemon. I guess for one of the big issues that I had when we were going through this was the disposal of a deceased hen. That is the biggest issue, I think, of this whole thing, whether they make noise or not, whatever. The big thing is when they pass away and they're deceased, what is the proper management system to get rid of them? Obviously, you're not going to take them to the mill or waste. One of the suggestions were that, well, they're going to a friend's farm, so that's not proper management to handle the deceased chickens as well, or deceased hens. So that's the big question of how much is it going to cost to find a proper disposal for the deceased hens. The other thing that we came across were if certain areas within the city were only designated to have these hens, but other areas weren't, what are you going to do? Do you need to have an animal shelter for the chickens? Like, where do you go if you have to change locations and the next place you're moving to isn't feasible for hens, and you've got 5 hens? What do you do with them? There are some issues there that are with it, obviously. I think as everything is going on in new generations and stuff, everyone's worried about local food and things. But those are the huge answers for me of the disposal of a deceased hen was the main one, because you don't want that. I think that's a huge issue. To completely kibosh everything is a tough one. We have already directed staff to work on that on the animal bylaw. So it's an interesting scenario there, O'Leary, Councillor O'Leary.
Councillor Kepke, I think you had your hand up.
Just to add a few more comments. You're right, it's hard to tell whether it's a chick or a rooster, a chicken or a hen or a rooster when it's a chick. So those regulations would have to be put in place that no chicks would be allowed, no roosters would be allowed. So a lot of regulations that would need to be put in place, hence a lot more investigation needs to be put in place. So I can't make a motion at this time to approve the minutes as they stand because there's a motion already on the floor.
Back to you, Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, just to follow up, I just think it's a common sense thing. We're just going to open up a whole new can of worms if we ever let this go through, and that's exactly what we're doing now by tabling it and letting it go on and on. I can't imagine someone sitting in their $400,000 home on their front porch that looks directly across the street into someone's backyard that has chickens. It's just, why would we put anyone in that position? To me, it's just straightforward. Thank you, Worship.
If anyone else want to comment? Councillor Thomas? No? If I can comment, my concern is this. We have a committee structure that are supposed to consider things. We're going to consider all ideas to their fullest. At that committee structure, they've heard from public members. They've looked at acquiring more information and to move forward. If it becomes a split vote, I'll be voting actually against the motion because I think the committee should be able to fulfill what the committee is supposed to fulfill, and I don't know in this that we should be cutting it off and eliminating that collection of information from the public in a public committee, though it does appear to be just council members, isn't it, in this one? Anyway, you can consult with the public, that's why we have the committees. Anyway, Councillor Wright, Deputy Mayor Wright.
Thank you very much. It was my motion that gave instructions here that we would get information. We had two excellent presentations, one in favor of chickens and one from the Board of Health that pointed out various difficulties with this and problematic, but nothing that they felt couldn't be overcome if it done properly. The problem that we would have is that the restrictions are going to be so restrictive, such as we've asked planning that you cannot have chickens unless you have a very sizable lot, such as half an acre or more. You have to have permission of all your neighbors. We suggested within a 2-block radius for you to have chickens, which they felt would be almost impossible to have. But I just don't. I mean, the committee felt that you just could not move chickens in without informing your neighbors or asking your neighbors permission, because of course they may feel it might lower their property values, etc. So there's an awful lot of concerns over this that we need to deal with, or that we would deal with at the committee level. And you'll also note that when it came down to asking the bylaw enforcement officer how many complaints they've had about chickens that are already in the city, they said no, they don't get complaints about chickens that are already in the city. And so, you know, it's difficult, and we may want to wait till we get the report from bylaw, or bylaw makes a decision based on the report that they do get from staff, and that report may say that we do not recommend chickens in the city.
Okay, any other comments? I'm going to call the question, and the motion is Councillor O'Leary's motion to end the discussion and not approve chickens in backyards now is basically the motion. So all in favor of that motion? 1, 2, 3. And opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the motion is defeated. Now back to Councillor Koepke with regard to a motion to approve her minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll put a motion forward to approve the minutes of the bylaw committee with the inclusion of a statement that more information will be forthcoming from staff regarding constrictive snakes.
Good, thank you. All in favor of that? Carried. Next one I have number 3, minutes of community planning and heritage. Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Mayor Body. As follow-up in part of the minutes, which I'm asking approval for, committee approved 2 facade applications within our Heritage Grant Program. One is a double facade grant for the Wilcox Bowman House. It's located at 606 2nd Avenue West, which is kind of overlooking the mill dam, to put some context on that location. And the second is the Atkins residence, which is at 217 8th Street West, so just down the street. Both received approval for their facade grants, a lot of brick repointing being done in the heritage buildings. The second property also received committee approval for a heritage permit to be issued in conjunction with the facade. So with that, I'm asking for approval of the planning minutes.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes? It's carried. Thank you. Number 4 is minutes of Cultural Advisory Committee, meeting held May 13th, 2015. Councillor Thomas.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. It was a very short meeting. One item on the agenda for discussion, and that was the cultural mixer. Many people will know that economic development sort of pioneered the mixer idea, bringing professionals working in a field together, and the Cultural Advisory Committee has moved forward now with a series of cultural mixers. Well, actually one cultural mixer, bringing workers from our local cultural industry together to network and get to know one another and put faces to the names, so to speak. It was a very successful event that was held, and there are plans afoot now for 2 more cultural mixers, one in the fall and one next spring. And with that, Your Worship, I will move approval of those minutes.
Questions? All in favor of that approval? That is carried. Thank you. Probably back to Councillor Thomas again, minutes of Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee.
Actually, Your Worship, I'll defer to Councillor Dodd, who chaired the meeting. I had to leave early, and he took over.
Presentation, yes. Go ahead, Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll try to keep this under 20 minutes. Just kidding. We had the Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee at Georgian College. We did this last year as well, so it's always nice to kind of get up there and kind of really see what the college is doing, because it's always thriving. And so we started off, we actually got a deputation from the campus principal, Marion Lucas, who kind of outlined some of the programs that were going on at the college. So she really kind of highlighted a lot of the positives and a lot of the good things that are happening with the college. Just a quick fast track sheet out here. There's 19 full-time programs at that college. That's something that I think we always kind of forget about, how diverse those programs are at the college. So I'm just going to touch on based on a little bit of highlights here, because Georgian College, I think, deserves the credit and deserves the time that we can give to them. So one of the things that she talked about were women in trades. There was a partnership with the Blue Water District School Board, which provided an opportunity for 75 high school girls to learn about the trades offered through the campus, including carpentry, construction, electronics, and welding. There were some culinary students who were attending in their second year who got to go to Dublin to actually work alongside fourth-year university students, and staff currently are looking to expand this partnership for culinary students. We have some great news with the Police Foundation students who participated in a CSI competition against other colleges and universities, which they tied for first place in a mock disaster training in Meaford. So I think that's a good pat on the back there. Also to be noted with the Police Foundation's program, they've been hired for the upcoming Pan Am Games for security, and there's actually some of them that are sitting as security for the FIFA's Women's World Cup. So that's another pat on the back to them. We also kind of briefly discussed about how healthcare is the top industry of employment in Grey Bruce, and Georgian College is going with that, and they actually have the RPN program, and they currently have just opened up offering the first 2 years of the RN program, and then the following 2 years for your bachelor would be done, I think, at Laurentian or another university. Following that, we got a verbal report from Marianne Alton, one of our board members, regarding the discussions on school closures and the opportunities for repurposing closed schools. Following that, we received another verbal report from the Manager of Economic Development, Steve Furness, who has kind of presented a video to the committee, which is promoting job availability in the manufacturing sector. So this one was done in partnership with EMC, which is the Excellence in Manufacturing, Blue Water District School Board at Georgian College, and it was meant for secondary students. It was just basically just to kind of allow the students to tour Hobart's, Transcontinental, Monroe, and some other on Belwick manufacturing plants, and then visited the college. And the big emphasis on it was whether you're working on a line job or whether you're being an engineer or an electrician, that there are opportunities for you locally. I think that's something that we always forget. I know as a young person, when I was younger, I always just said, Owen Sound has no jobs for me. But sometimes you just kind of put your blinders on, you don't realize the opportunities that are around you. With that, that was basically, those were basically the big highlights. So with that, I would move the approval of these minutes.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Gregg?
Thank you, Mayor Bai. Do have a question, and it pertains to the closing or the potential closing of 2 public schools in the community. It's noted there that Bayview and Dufferin public schools are slated by the school board for closing, and I personally think that there's been a real lack of community knowledge and input on that potential. But I'm wondering right now and I'm just throwing this out there, but could the county put the brakes on the county addition and consider Bayview Public School to move their new administration requirements to? And I could go furthermore, thereby they could contribute some of those monies and achieve some economic development gains, which are being pursued by the county, with a donation from the county to the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. I mean, I think we need to think more out of the box and take advantage of facilities and infrastructure that's already there.
Councillor Thomas, I think, had his hand up.
Sure, I just wanted to explain that at this point, those closures are a theory. The board still has to go through the accommodation review process in the community before they'll be able to move forward with those potential closures. At this point, the closures were suggested in a much larger report that actually listed, I think, about a dozen schools within Grey and Bruce counties that are potential for closures, and it's based strictly on the number of students in the schools. So the Economic Development Committee is just kind of trying to take a look ahead to the potential of that happening, though at this point, until the accommodation reviews happen, the schools remain as they are.
Councillor Lyman?
Yeah, I am sort of shocked about the Dufferin School being on the list. That would mean there are no schools, public schools, in the valley. And with the literally thousands of people that live in the valley, they'd all be up on the hill, unless I'm missing a school, because they've closed Ryerson, Strath, Victoria, and I think that's getting absolutely, the idea was schools to serve the community. Well, that's getting a little ridiculous, not to have any in the valley whatsoever.
Guess that decision will be made by the appropriate people?
I know, but I think we should, as a city, have concern because that school performs a park and community function for that neighborhood.
I think we're ahead of the go ahead, Councillor Dodd.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And maybe I incorrectly worded that. That's not meaning anything for the future of those schools. There's a lot of other things that need to go in play. And basically all the Economic Development Committee has looked into it as we've looked at past agendas. We're trying to look at innovative ways to stay focused and stay ahead of the game to see opportunities. So I don't want to make that sound like there was anything more into that than there is.
Thank you. Other comments? Have we passed those minutes yet? We haven't. You moved approval. All in favor of approving? That's approved. Thank you. The next one is minutes of the Joint Operations Advisory Committee and Community Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee. meeting held on May 20th, 2015. Who's presenting those? Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Your Worship. The first correction I'd make, it was not actually, it was planned to be a joint operations and community planning meeting, but it was actually an operations meeting with the members of the Community Planning and Heritage Committee invited. So it just, it's an important distinction for quorum. So it was actually an operations meeting. That'd be the first point. Basically, the big part of the discussion was around the downtown river precinct. Everyone will know that is the area on the east and west sides of the Sydenham River between 8th and 10th Street. We've had a lot of discussion at this council about that. We had a very quick overview of that, trying to move forward on that plan, which is a key strategic plan for the city. The first phase of that, I guess, was a scoped traffic study to look at the traffic in the area. We had a presentation from a traffic expert on that. Basically, the recommendation that's coming forward to this council is that we endorse the findings of that study. In a nutshell, it proposes to make 1st Avenue East southbound from 10th to 8th one-way southbound. The current street would go 1st Avenue West by the library would go one-way northbound as it currently does. But I guess the big change would be the discussion around one-way southbound from 10th to 8th, behind City Hall, behind the Tim Hortons, behind Fulford's, that area. The committee endorsed that, and that would move it forward to an engineering design and public, and that would allow for public input, pending, of course, budget for 2016, if that's the direction we want to take. So, before anyone gets too upset in that block about public input, there was a lot of public input to get to this stage. There would be a lot further public input before council would make any decision on that. As I said, an EA process which allows for a great deal of public input, especially the businesses directly affected. That's that part of it. There was also a discussion, as that traffic engineer was looking at that discussion, recommended that we also take a look at the traffic flow on 10th Street, and he had some ideas around improvements that could improve the traffic flow on 10th Street. So I think we're going to move forward with that as well. Staff have, we talked about the Billy Bishop Airport, the storage of equipment there, and staff are going to bring back alternatives of how we could store some of our equipment at the airport before we would consider demolishing the building that's on the other side of Highway 26 there. New signage for school bus exit and entrance on 4th Avenue West. There is the 2014 Jeannot landfill annual monitoring report. I know a number of people, you kind of forget about that landfill, but it is an ongoing concern for the city, an ongoing obligation, I guess would be a better word, for the city. And those reports are available at the library or at City Hall for anyone who's interested to look into it. There was a number of issues around transit that had been raised at the Accessibility Committee. Most of those were answered at the Operations Committee. One item was about booking the specialized transit bus, and a discussion to go back to the Accessibility Committee on how that might be improved. That system may or could be improved. Last point was the MTO is discussing potential upgrades at Highway 6, 21 and Alpha Street inside the city. And the last point I would make is that the Operations Committee, which was to be, has been rescheduled from this coming Wednesday to the meeting in July, which is the third Wednesday in July at 4:30. So there will be no June meeting for the Operations Committee. And I believe that's it. Thank you, Worship. I'd move those, the adoption of those minutes.
With the amendment of the title?
Amendment of the title.
Thank you. Okay, I'll come to you just in a minute. Councillor Kepke, get her hand up first.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, to the Chair of the Operations Advisory Committee. Can you tell us regarding the traffic flow of the one-way southbound of delivery trucks to businesses on those blocks?
Thank you for that. That is one of the concerns. How would I put this? They took that into account when they were looking at the situation. I'm not saying this very well. They as part of the EA process, we will have input from those businesses their views on it, their concerns on it. There actually might be more room for trucks if it was only one way, because you'd be reducing, you'd only have one lane as opposed to two. Now that one lane would be bigger, but it wouldn't be the size of the two lanes. So I guess with the traffic, there may be some specific questions around that one-way flow, best answered not by me, but by the traffic consultant, and as we go through the EA process. This has been discussed numerous times, if we should be looking at the traffic in that area. The consultant did study it and felt this was the best way to go. It would also allow for a turn lane into the Tim Hortons drive-through, albeit not a big one, but it would still allow. Right now there isn't any at all, and it would allow for that as well. So.
And also, I believe there was some redesign of First Avenue as well. That I don't know if we can see a picture of that, if that's appropriate at this time or not.
I don't think.
This is attached to the minutes, this presentation.
As they're bringing it up, I mean, as part of the river precinct, the whole idea was to redesign this entire area from the road down towards the bank. So yes, there's more public space. The sidewalks are wider. They're straightening it out. It was a slight reduction in some parking, but not a great deal. There you are.
The market. Yeah.
More access to the market, right? So there's the area that we're discussing right now. Specifically, the traffic study was looking at just the roads around. There you go. And perhaps it'd be better for Ms. Coulter to, or Mr. Becking, if there's any discussion on these specific points.
So as council is aware, the Downtown River Precinct conceptual plan was approved with the idea that it would be implemented in phases, the first phase being First Avenue East from 9th Street South. As we embarked on that detailed design for the parkland and the, as you can see, sort of a grand promenade along the edge of the river, engineering raised the point that we needed to figure out the width of the road and which way the traffic was going. At that point, council authorized retaining 3M to do a traffic study of this area. So the traffic study goes from 8th Street to 10th Street. The idea in the recommendation is that it would be implemented in 3 phases. So the first phase, and each of the phases is not dependent on the next. So the first phase would be First Avenue, south of 9th Street to 8th Street. The traffic would go one way south only. If you think about this 8th Street to 10th Street area, first east to west, and consider a clockwise pattern is the way that traffic would go in that area. It does account for the provision of delivery vehicles to the backs of those stores. There is parking along there, both in the 900 and 800 block, and the design of the public street would still account for and provide for access to those loading spaces, as well as access to any parking that's on private property. So by council endorsing the recommendations and moving forward toward an engineering design and EA process, not only will we get further public input, but we'll get more detailed design, which will allow us to move forward on the Downtown River Plan implementation.
At 10th Street to 9th Street, First Avenue East has always been one way from 10th Street to 9th. Because when we were in business, we used to have to get trucks in there, except we had a train line that went down the middle, but that took up half the space. Councillor Lemon?
This is one of those things that looks good on paper. I have a lot of concerns about it, which I expressed at the meeting. And one of the biggest ones is I'm afraid this is going to have a negative impact on the market. I'm concerned about the entranceway at Timmy's, because cars already leave their rear end sticking out on 9th Street now. And if you provide a turning lane, it's only going to get worse. I also do not understand why it's necessary to reduce First Avenue West from 10th to 9th to a one-way street when it's been functioning quite nicely as a two-way. I just really think that we're biting off a lot more than we can reasonably digest. I think we're creating a problem intersection at where First Avenue East at 8th Street, the two entrances are offset. And that, I've been told, and I've been at operations meetings, it's not a good idea to have a very short offset between streets, yet we are creating one. We're getting rid of one and we're creating one. So I really think that doing the riverbanks doesn't have anything to do with realigning the streets. And I think you're going to run into a lot more problems than maybe first apparent. And I don't want to see us spend the money on plans until we have gotten a very firm support from the businesses in that area, because they, I think, would be adversely affected by it.
Thank you. Other comments? So we have a motion amended to approve the minutes from that meeting. Oh, yes. There's one more amendment apparently.
Yes, one more, please. I was not at that meeting. I'm listed as being there, and I'm assuming that the chair was there, but I can't speak for him, but I was not present at that meeting. So.
We're okay with that? Okay, good. Now with those two amendments, approval of those minutes, all in favor? That is carried, thank you. Minutes of wastewater treatment plant ad hoc committee meeting from May 26th.
Thank you, Worship. These will be quick because most of it was covered by Mr. Prentice earlier about the shipwreck. That was the bulk of the meeting that we discussed what to do about that. And basically they're going to offset the outflow pipe from the sewage treatment plant and have a bit of an L bend in the diffusion from it. The only other thing was the completion of the biostorage tank, and they're bringing back at the next meeting an updated schedule talking about the completion dates and the budget to date. So that was a request of the committee to have a more thorough look at the schedule and the budget. But other than that, as I said, it was discussed. I'll move the adoption of these minutes.
Good. Any comments, any questions? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 11D, minutes of in-camera meetings for approval. Minutes of in-camera meeting held May 11th, 2015. Councillor McManaman.
I'll move all three as they were not-for-profit housing and the housing company. Sorry?
So I'm 11D, so there's just two there. If we can back up.
Sorry, Your Worship, I was moving all of them, the 11D and E, sorry, but I'll move D as well.
Okay, so you're moving 11D and E being all the minutes from 5 in total meeting?
Correct, sorry, yes. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? This is carried. Thank you. Other business, number 12. Starting with Councillor Thomas with regard to the AGM.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. I'd just like to let everyone know that the annual meeting of the Community Waterfront Heritage Centre, this is the second AGM of that organization, will be held at the North Atlantic Room of the Royal Canadian Legion on this Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. I'd like to invite all city staff and council to come on out and hear what the group has been up to. I mean, you know, if there's no other meetings that night, that is. It is a chance for members of the organization to vote on constitutional changes and to hear what the group has been up to. It's also an opportunity for members of the community not only to hear what they've been up to, but also to buy themselves a membership so they can become voting members as well. So that's all I have for tonight, Your Worship.
Anything else for sale that night?
Sorry?
Tickets? Any tickets for sale that night?
Oh, yes, we're still selling tickets on the train car draw for those who haven't got them yet. It's my understanding that the dining car is much closer to Owen Sound than it once was, and we would be seeing, hopefully, that coming to the museum towards mid to late summer. So that's all I have tonight.
Good, thank you.
We'll hear about that in time to do that.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I would like to ask a question through you to Ms. Coulter. And it has to do with, well, partly with one of the items that was on our agenda. But we had this report come to to the county planning, and I just want to read one line. This is from the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change, and it has to do with the strip. And it says, we would expect that the research conducted for an area-wide amendment would consider F, formal municipality to municipality negotiations with the City of Owen Sound to explore the extension of the city's system. Alternatively, the prospects for an area-wide water supply system for the Sunset Strip should be examined. And in this respect, the amendment should comment on the present state of water supply in the Strip. And they're asking the county to be very careful about allowing potable water being trucked into the Strip and that sort of thing. And in our official plan, 6.2.2.6, we have we're existing municipal potable water supply and a sewage treatment system. I'm not going to read it all because I'm sure we could, but there's one section there that says, in considering whether to permit new connections to the city water or sewage system. And I just want to be sure that if the ministry comes to us and says, you know, or if our neighbor comes and says to the ministry that the city will not supply us or allow us to supply, are there enough conditions in there that we can negotiate water with our neighbor, water or sewage services with our neighbor? Or is there something that we should be putting in there that says, if our neighbors supply these services, that we would negotiate with them?
Thank you, Worship. Through you to County Councillor Wright, or Deputy Mayor Wright. A couple of things. The comments from the MOE ask Georgian Bluffs to look at either an extension from Owen Sound, and that certainly exists in other places, Forest Heights, Brook, to Leith and Meaford. It also asks Georgian Bluffs to consider a municipal system in that area. Based on the comments of the MOE, the applicant and their consulting team amended their approach to providing water. So rather than trucking in water and having a holding tank system, they're actually going to have a drilled well, which is more of a typical servicing outside of a fully serviced urban area. The city's official plan does have policies with respect to water and sanitary sewer service. In Owen Sound, the idea is that all development is on full municipal services. And I think it is important to look at those policies of our official plan, because it doesn't say you can or you can't, but it establishes certain criteria and provisions for the provision of water and sewer outside of our boundaries. So perhaps, you know, rather than me going through this in detail tonight, I could send this policy out to council. There is a request in the CPAC agenda that we provide council through that committee with a report on what does this policy mean. But really, I think it's important to recognize the policy says where municipal water and sewer services are to be extended beyond the city's current limits, boundary adjustments shall be encouraged that correspond with that area that can be serviced by the capacity of the services. Partial services, that's one, water or sewer, shall not be extended beyond the city limits except to address failed services. And that's an important policy because it's consistent with the provincial policy statement. Where partial services is extended at the sole discretion of the city, boundary adjustments and other payments and fees shall be coordinated between the affected municipalities. In considering whether to permit new connections to the city's water or sewage system, development and land use patterns that would hinder the efficient expansion or development on the city shall not be permitted. And then lastly, notwithstanding the section or the Municipal Act where there is a municipal service outside the city limits, the city is under no obligation to permit connection except in accordance with the requirements of this section. So we can certainly provide more information to council, but I think the policies in our official plan provide for the extension under certain circumstances, and that's often sewer with water and agreements.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you for that explanation, and I just want to be sure that we're not going to be caught. That's all. Yeah, thank you very much.
Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to highlight the Community Foundation Grey Bruce, which recently did their granting ceremony in the spring and gave $331,800 to various organizations in the city. The Owen Sound Community Fund, which was developed and grew from the funds of the proceeds of Owen Sound's 150th, also supported projects in the city, and those projects they supported were the Available Space Project by the Tom Thompson Art Gallery, 30 People, 30 Pieces, the Community Waterfront Heritage Center, and Boost Marketing Strategy by the Downtown Merchants. And the Owen Sound Community Fund is looking at trying to build their endowed fund with the Community Foundation Grey Bruce, and I have in front a photograph, or sorry, a screened print by Carl Beam, a Canadian artist, which we are selling tickets on. It's a $1,000 valued print, and the tickets are $5, and they can be purchased at the Community Foundation Grey Bruce office or from one of the members of the Owen Sound Community Fund, of which I am one, and Ann Finley Stewart is another, who's one of our media people here tonight. The second item I have is on the senior fair, which was held on June 3rd, and I just wanted to congratulate Francesca Dobbin and the United Way for the success of that project. And it was certainly very well attended. All of the space in the Bay Shore was used for workshops or vendors or tradespeople that had booths showing what they had to offer to seniors, and it was a very, very good day.
That's it?
That's it.
Good. Thanks. I think Francesca would want you to thank the law firm Forcier and Grant that provided free busing all that day. I was reminded of that a couple of times, and it was nice of them to do that. Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I didn't realize you were speaking on the torch relay, so I'll just, I did personally thank Doug Cleverly for a job well done with the torch relay. But I wanted to ask staff if it would be possible to send a letter to Larissa Urquhart, just thanking her for a job well done on an official basis. Thank you.
Yep, done. Good, thank you. I've got 4 things down here. I'll start maybe with the strategic plan. Well, as council knows, we've been working on the strategic plan since February. We started at 1 o'clock today and went from 1 o'clock until 4? Mm-hmm. Got to be a blur. We will now be going to another public meeting. So I'll just read the note that I've got. Since February, the members of council have been asking the community what you love about Owen Sound, what your vision is for Owen Sound, and to prioritize the city's future. Thanks to you, our community, members of council and staff, key action items have been identified and a draft City of Owen Sound strategic plan has been developed. We will be hosting a strategic plan development community meeting on Monday, June 29th, 2015, here in the council chambers from 4:30 p.m. till 6 p.m. Our draft plan will be presented by Laura, our consultants, our strategic plan development consultants. There will be an opportunity for the public to review the draft plan, ask questions, and to make comments. So again, 4:30 to 6 o'clock, Monday, June 29th, 2015, here at the county chambers. There's the council chambers. Review of our strategic plan. So come out, give us your opinion, have a look at it. So that's that one. Question? Go ahead.
I believe that the consultant was also hoping to have the plan on the city's website by next Monday so that people could review it in advance.
And that date was Monday.
22nd.
22nd,
Yeah.
so it will be on our website, owensound.ca. There'll be a button set up by Mr. Walpole, no doubt, to go and find it, review it, so you'll have a good look at it before you come to that meeting on the 29th. So, thank you. Second thing on our list, pretty big deal in this country. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada did a 6-year study into residential schools and into government decisions in the past. They came up with recommendations. There is 90-something recommendations. Approximately 5 or 6 that actually say municipal levels of governments, and some other recommendations that say all levels of governments. Mr. Ritchie, I know, has started to look at those, review them, especially the ones specifically that apply to us. Even some of the municipal ones appear to be more a provincial level decision on some of the things. However, the report came out. Staff have started to look at that immediately and see how it affects us, or how we can affect it, and what we need to do to review those recommendations. So any questions to that, Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. Further to that, should we make a recommendation to make sure that we're getting some further information back? Or Wayne, Mr. Ritchie, are you planning to bring a report? I know some of those recommendations might apply to our municipality.
Through you, Your Worship, once we've done some research on this and checked with other colleagues, we'll certainly be bringing a report back to council on exactly where the city stands and where we may move in the future. So absolutely, there will be a report coming.
Do we need a motion, or bringing it anyway?
I don't, but if council would like to make a motion, that's fine.
Go ahead, up to you.
Sure, I'll just make the motion that that we'd receive a report regarding further information about which applies to our municipality.
Questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Sorry, all in favor? That will be carried. Okay. Next thing that's on my list has been bouncing along for a little while. 2017, 150th anniversary of our nation, 160th anniversary of our city, 100th anniversary of Billy Bishop getting the Victoria Cross, 100th anniversary of Tom Thompson drowning in Canoe Lake, 50th anniversary of our art gallery, 50th anniversary of Bruce Trail. There's probably some other things. The city's always liked to have a party. Should we be putting together a committee or at least looking at the committee? What's everyone's thoughts, comments? Councillor Thomas?
I think that's a great idea, because I'm never one to shy away from a party, that's for sure. And having been at Canada's Hundreds in Montreal, I think that the one thing I will say, though, we did a number of years ago have a 150th anniversary here in Owen Sound, and a report must have come forward to council at some point creating a committee structure. And I wonder if we can just dig back and see if there's something that will assist us rather than reinventing the wheel.
Good. So that's a motion to bring that report to council.
It is so.
Good. Councillor Lemon?
I think it's an excellent idea. We've got more anniversaries going on that year than you can shake a stick at. But I also am pleased that we're looking at it now, not 6 months before the event, to give us time for a real bang-up celebration. And Owen Sound does know how to celebrate.
So allow us to at least move forward in that direction and figure it out.
Well, at 150 years ago, we were also known as the Corkscrew City.
I don't remember that.
No, neither do I, but I've been told that. Not that I know anything about it.
So all in favor of that motion? There we go, that's carried. Pan Am Torch Run. It was a great night. It was pretty emotional standing on stage watching Larissa Yurku come to us, and I really thank Councillor O'Leary for asking for that. Thank you, letter. we're pretty lucky to have that person in our community. Always says the right thing, is such a, you know, when you're a little kid, you cheered for Davy Keon, and it was always somebody you looked up to as an idol, and then you get to a point that you're starting to look down at people younger than you are as an idol, and Larissa would have to be one of those people for all of us that just is an amazing person and has proven that hard work and a good plan will get you through. That night we received a nice painting that is just down over here from Ontario Lottery and Gaming Commission. There's also a plaque that is for all of Owen Sound, and then a smaller plaque that are all over here that we received in thanks for hosting the torch relay that night. We're the only community in Grey and Bruce selected for a special community celebration. Mr. Cleverly put together a great cross-section of culture and music from Beckett's playing Celtic to Bobby Dean Blackburn, whose band plays Emancipation Picnic every year, to the Richie Felino Band, and I forget his first name, young Mr. Richie is from Cape Croker and living down in the Hamilton area where he's got that band, to those who stayed. Crystal Shawanda knocked everybody's socks off with one heck of a professional performance. Really a great night, and it was great to see so many singers and gymnasts and all kinds of things involved, and not only Larissa but all the other torch carriers that are from our community. It was great. So we got to thank obviously OLG. They were very good to us. Government of Canada through the Department of Canadian Heritage, and the Province of Ontario's Torch Relay Celebration Fund, which helped make it all happen. I think the highlight for me, and it is an absolute coincidence that it comes within a week of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report. At approximately 5:30, we did a grand entry and ceremonial welcome with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation leaders, with Chief Vern Root from Saugeen, and with lead counselor Tony Shigano from Cape Croker, the Chippewas of Nawash, followed by drums, singers, followed by probably 15 to 20 dancers of varying ages from about 6 to adult, and it was really special to be included with them. This is their territory. It was really nice of them to come and participate with us. We hope that we get to participate a lot more in the next coming years with them. We're standing around on the ramp waiting to go up, and it was kind of fun with the poor organizer telling us that we had approximately 12 seconds each to talk, and Vern Root and Tony Shigano were so much fun to be standing there with the comments made after the poor guy walked away. Really nice people, and it was nice to make friends with them, and I really look forward to the city going forward with them. Also, I see here a note from Mr. Cleverly to thank the Owen Sound Minor Lacrosse for their support during the event, and they were paid an honorarium for making our jobs easier. So that's, I think, all of my items. Again, over the last 3 weeks, I did get to do a couple of other neat things. As mayor, got to attend the change of command at the Meaford Training Center at the Army base, where Brian Berard is moving on for, I can't think of his first name, Lillington is coming in. That was pretty special. I got to be the reviewing officer for the Air Cadets at the Armories the night before, which is also special. And then we had our veterans remembrance, trying to find it here, at the Bishop home on last Sunday. On the previous Sunday, got to attend St. George's Church where local resident Bob Johnson received the Knight of the French National Order of the Legion of Honor bestowed from the office of the President of France for his efforts in the Second World War in France. So that's pretty special events that I got to go to as mayor. A whole bunch of other things, but those are the highlights. So that covers off my other business. I think next is 13, motion that the committee rise and report.
Committee rise and report.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Resolution adopting proceedings of the committee of the whole.
Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Thomas, that the action taken in committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be confirmed by this council.
And all in favor? That is carried. We have no notices of motion, no new business by resolution. Bylaws, please.
Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconded by Councillor Thomas, that bylaw numbers 2015-78, 2015-81, 2015-82, and 2015-83 be passed and enacted.
And all in favor? That is carried. Just want to make note especially of bylaw 2015-83, which authorizes the mayor and clerk to execute, oh, I read the wrong one. Oh, it's the first one, 2078. Execute the employment contract with Mr. Ritchie in his position of city manager, so that makes it official. We passed the bylaw. We're happy to have you leading us. Thank you. I think that conducts all the business, so we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.
Okay. So